Hello and welcome to our member of the month for June 2025. We are here with Miss Terra Padgett. She is with the Powerpool Fund. Now, with Terra, she's a real estate investor. She's also a licensed insurance broker and a Hall of Fame collegiate basketball player, which I've known you for years and didn't even realize until now. But her professional background is in commercial property and casualty insurance with an expertise in brokering coverage for the real estate industry. So, alongside her husband, she founded and operates TAG Capital Holdings. This is a real estate investment company. They're based out of Houston, Texas. TAG Capital Holdings has conducted numerous real estate transactions. They do acquisitions, renovations, they manage and sell rental properties. So, in complementing and diversifying their single family portfolio, Terra has also begun investing in commercial real estate. So, understanding the power of real estate as a wealth building tool, her Powerpool Fund investment club was formed to break down the barriers that often deter people from getting started into real estate investing. This is things like lack of capital, lack of knowledge, lack of a network, right? Things that we all know are really difficult to overcome in getting into commercial real estate. But her club welcomes both new and seasoned investors to become members of a community where there is power in pooling our funds. So, Tara, we are so glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Erica. Yes, for that lovely intro.
Hey, and I'm telling you, I was so shocked when I guess I'm not shocked because one, I know you're tall, but two, like you've got the high energy. I'm like, yeah, 100% she's an athlete, like no
Yep.
doubt. And then, Hall of Famer, I'm like, all of those things make sense. I'm not surprised one bit. I didn't know it, but now that I do, I'm not surprised. So,
Yeah, volleyball and basketball. Went to Texas A&M Corpus Christi on a full athletic ride basketball scholarship. So we were down in Corpus Christi, Texas. Go Islanders. So yeah, that's my
oh
alma
my
mater,
gosh.
proud alma mater.
Absolutely, you should be. Oh man. Well, and there's a lot of people that are in that athletic space that we've got that competitive drive, and so that translates into business pretty well, I'm sure.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, obviously, collegiate athlete. How did you get from where you were then, and obviously going to school, playing sports, all of that, to where you are now on your commercial insurance brokerage and your real estate journey?
Yeah. So, starting with the insurance side, if you ask anybody that's in insurance, like nine times out of 10, when you say, "Oh, how did you get into insurance?" They'll say, "I fell into it. It wasn't planned. I didn't go to school for it. I kind of
You
fell into
didn't
it."
grow up wanting to be an insurance lady?
No, and that's a part of my story is that unbeknownst to me, did all the take your daughter to work days and all that stuff growing up. My mom was in the industry my entire life, but hadn't a clue what she did for a living. Even with those take your daughter to work days, back then it was Foley's, not Macy's. Like we would go to Foley's for lunch and eat yogurt for 2 hours in the morning and have 2 hour lunches. And so it was like, great, but still didn't, she worked in an office building downtown, but like had no clue what she did. But I got out of college, doing I was working at a sales job where in Houston, it's hot. We were door to door sales folks,
Oh, in
day in and day out,
Houston.
like going into businesses, office buildings, strip centers, wherever, doing door to door sales and the heat. And it's hot here a solid 9 months out of the year. So
Not just
around the
hot, it
clock,
is humidity, like
humid.
1000% humidity. Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
yes, year round. And so we were doing sales at that company, and I walked into a nationwide insurance office and got a seat with the owner. Was going through my spiel on why this is best for your bottom line, and all the different sales training 101. And he's just sitting there looking. He's like, have you ever thought about selling insurance? You'd be good at this. And I'm kind of like, well, what's insurance? What's that about? Like, Jake from State Farm, but I don't even think Jake was around back then, nor was
Yeah.
Flo or anything. Like this was like circa 2008ish. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, let's do insurance. I was tired of doing the door-to-door sales thing, but it was still
Yeah, you're sitting in
sales,
that
just insurance
nice
sales.
air conditioned office. You're like,
Exactly. I was like, I
yeah,
could
I
just
could do
sit in
this.
AC and do sales. Absolutely. And so at the time, I'm like, yeah, mom, I'm going to start this insurance thing. And then she started explaining what she did. And I'm like, oh, wait, really? So you be like a client of mine? Like I hadn't a clue. So literally, my story is I cold called my career, and 17 years later, I'm still an insurance broker. I'm not with Nationwide anymore. I'm dealing with a lot a bigger business on the commercial side and different firms like that, but still in insurance all the same. And it started off from just door knocking as a salesperson, for first year or two out of college. And, here I am today, still 17 years in the business. How'd you get into it? Fell into it, cold called it.
You cold called it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's Well, one, cold calling is hard. I don't know if you can
Yes.
call it cold calling in Houston, but the term still
Hot
stands.
calling, yeah. Cold leads.
But man,
Yeah.
to be able to do that type of like door to door, I don't want to say transactional, but like those door to door interactions, those are hard. So
Yeah.
if you can stand through that, then getting into insurance and being able to deal with anything in sales, right? It's not just it's a process for sure, but it's a personality and being able
Yeah.
to like break through the mental difficulty of that industry.
Yep. The get out of my office, the slam doors in your face, you're sitting on a goose egg we had quotas monthly. So you're sitting on a goose egg on the first of every month and it's to get, 3 to 4 deals every single month. And so we were selling like IT type services. So it wasn't like
Oh,
paper clips and office supplies. It was more of like your phone lines, your virtual private networks, kind of like how you can funnel in from home. And it was all that kind of stuff and just managed service company cell phones, things like that. So it was a bunch of different just like IT tech managed services that we were just walking in trying to get the president or owner to hear us out and hopefully switch their software and all that kind of stuff to our services. So
that's so cool though. Like I don't know. I can think of like in my career in my life, like I look back and there's those interactions, like those one little things that happen that completely change the trajectory of your life and
yeah,
you don't realize in the moment, but like you look back, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that one cold call, that one interaction, that one just you went, you were doing great, doing your thing, but it just took you on a completely different path to where you are." So
yeah.
that's super cool.
And it really did. And even transitioning to that. So as I was at just, Nationwide in Nationwide, the typical, what you see the commercials for, Peyton Manning, like Nationwide is on your side, those offices. So I went to my mom after doing, I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the premiums. I'm writing home and cars and stuff like that. And even small businesses. And, we worked on commission. So I'm like, okay, a $3,000 premium, $5,000 premium. What if I get a $30,000 premium, $50,000 premium, or what about in the millions or whatnot? And just thinking, oh, if the commissions were still that. So knowing that, as I got into the industry and then understanding more what my mom did, she was at a big oil and gas company and was on their risk management team. So,
Mm.
I'm like, I know their premiums are in the millions, not, the $30,000, small business or whatnot. So I did, the age old what you should do, had my resume together and said, Mom, who do you know? And I did that, and so
I
she
love
sent
it.
she sent my resume to some brokers that she had worked with, being on the client side her whole career, and so that's how I kind of got in what I call the big brokerage world. It is where I started there. It was just asking my mom through her network and using that network to help build my network. And that's how I started in kind of big brokerage world. And as I started, I did some time in healthcare and then kind of just general brokerage. And then once I started doing real estate, I just liked it, and so I just tried to stay with it because it was just something that I enjoyed talking about, looking at, understanding, hearing what the pain points for the clients were. And so that's how I kind of got my started my journey and expertise and really just focusing in that niche in the real estate space, especially being in a place like Houston
Yeah.
where we're coastal, we're about 50 miles or however much from Galveston coast, and being what we call tier one and catastrophic losses when these
Yeah.
storms come in. So writing that was a big thing for them, property insurance, and writing that was a big thing for them. So that's where I want, and being in Houston and even in Texas, I mean, oil and gas is rampant. Everybody does oil and gas, and I kind
Oh
of
yeah.
thought I wanted to separate myself from just, oh, there's a dime a dozen of brokers doing oil and gas. Everybody's doing oil and gas, and so that's why I wanted to focus on real estate, because real estate is everywhere. It's East Coast to West Coast. It's north to south. Santa Claus on the North Pole has his, right along with the people down south that are near the equator or whatnot. So that's why I tried to carve a niche out for myself, that I wanted to be a specialist in real estate.
Yeah.
And twofold, getting into it more and more, writing a lot more commercial, multifamily, industrial things, office buildings, just writing all of those things. You always hear, the ways to wealth in the world, right? Or stock market or real estate. It's kind of always, are you a stock person or you're a real estate person? Stock person or real
Yeah.
estate person? Outside of, I invented something like the car, the wheel, the iPhone, outside of being an innovator and an inventor, it's either stocks or real estate are the two main things. And so, stocks is cool, but I just didn't like the volatility of the stock market. That was just
Oh
too up
yeah.
and down, too, the defibrillator, the heart machine, or whatever that thing is, in the hospital, where that's a
Beep,
stock market.
beep,
And yeah,
beep.
over
Yeah.
time, depending on what return period you're looking at, 50 years, 100 years, 20 years, it increases at a rate. But it was just the volatility, and I always looked at like musical chairs. Where was your portfolio when the music stopped? When you were ready to
Oh,
start
yeah.
cashing out?
That's a
Where is
great
it? And
analogy.
then the music stopped. Do you have a chair to sit in, or did you retire a month ago when the chair sit, or in 2020? A lot of people retired in 2020 when COVID hit, and then the uncertainty of the stock market crashed. So I mean that's how I looked at it. Real estate, not so much. It was a lot more of a stable asset class, and look from an insurance side, looking at it from that perspective. I'm like, okay, like their rates are going up, 20%, 40%, but yet they're not folding. They're not going
They're
bankrupt.
still
So there's
paying
something to it. They don't like it and they fuss about it, rightfully so. Think about your own homeowners insurance. You fuss about it every time it goes up,
all the
but
time.
you're still writing the check, because you got
Yep.
to have for one reason or another, your risk tolerance, your mortgage, you want all your stuff to be able to be rebuilt and fixed and whatnot. So it was a great translation when I was like, okay, I got to start doing more investing. You hear about it, I just need to do it. And so really having that background in real estate, it was a great and easy transition as I started to become a real estate investor and entrepreneur. Understanding the pain points and what commercial property managers, developers, if they're building something, owners faced. And so that's was my transition into real estate was I need to start doing this, and I've got a good foundation just based on clients that I write.
Yeah.
Let me start doing some stuff on my own.
Well, I think that's great too because you're seeing it from two ends, right? So you're seeing it from a service provider and you're seeing what your clients are doing. You're seeing I did the same thing. Like I saw what my clients were doing going into real estate. I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" So you start to learn, you're providing a mutual benefit. Hey, I've got what you need, you've got something I need. So you start to build a relationship and exchange value. But I think that's also helpful because kind of coming back to your initial point, networking is everything. Like people and network. So you had your mom's network and you leverage that to get into commercial, and then you're using your client's network to get into the commercial real estate side. And obviously, y'all see you and your husband's single family portfolio. So I think that's brilliant to be able to leverage that and get into and say, hey, I see what you're doing. And I see the value in it, and continue to bring that under your own umbrella as well. That's huge.
Yeah. My transition into the real estate space was through I did one of the education courses. Like people, because for me it's like I know insurance and I know insurance for real estate, but when it comes to actually me being the buyer or me being the seller and me actually negotiating and putting the deal together, I took one of those education courses. I do think knowledge is power, and
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people like I went bankrupt and da 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 da. And I just didn't care to go down that path. I
Yeah,
just didn't
if I
care to
could avoid
have,
that at all, that would be
yeah,
great.
right, the bankrupt or making these just expensive mistakes and things like that. So I wanted to, to get a better foundation and understanding of it. And so I did do an education course, which I was, a pricey price tag, but was one of the best investments that I could have made because I felt like I went out with so much more confidence. And I probably, even though I did still have mistakes because experience is the best teacher, but I think it really helped set the stage and the foundation, not just for real estate, but ultimately I think financial literacy was more the bigger thing that
Mm,
I gathered from that, and really
yeah.
understanding the movement of money and debt and not being afraid of debt and how to arbitrage it and
Yeah.
how to just utilize these different tools and strategies like life insurance policies and things like that to be your own bank, and different, and just leveraging different properties as collateral against each other, and basically using leverage as your friend, not as handcuffs to your life,
Yes.
like as debt to your life.
Yep.
And so I think a lot, yes, it was real estate, but also a lot in financial literacy that I think really catapulted what I was doing, what I wanted to do, a lot quicker, a lot sooner, a lot further, and not trying to not get caught up in analysis paralysis, because you could be on YouTube University every waking
Oh
hour
my
of your
gosh.
life, and
Yes.
somebody will say something, then somebody will say something else that will change what the other person said, and then somebody will say something else that'll shift it back to a different thought, and you can just get lost in so many different people's ways and ideas and thoughts of how they did it. So it's like school. You're in it, but you got to get out there and just start blazing your own path and
Yeah.
figuring out what works for you.
You're never going to learn everything in the classroom, in the class, right? You're going to learn, what you need to do to survive, or at least doggy paddle, keep your head above water, right?
Right.
And then you'll get better and better. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because I know there's a ton of now there are so many different real estate education programs and courses and classes. And so I've taken one as well. And I'm kind of the same way. Like I had gone to a lot of different conferences and heard different things and listened to seminars, but there was a course that I went to that it was so they did such a good job of breaking it down like, okay, here's what this means, here's the formula, now here's some examples, let's do it together. And so being able to get your hand held and walked through all of that and obviously open up the door to a lot of other, pieces, financial literacy and all that. I mean, that's huge. And I think that's helpful to some people that, for those of you that are listening and you're thinking, hey, is this real estate education course worth it? You know what? I think education courses do make sense. The right ones do. So if you're going to make any investment, make it in yourself first, make it in your own education because
Yeah.
it pays dividends for the rest of your life.
Exactly, exactly. And then one of the first things I remember from when I did the course, the instructor said, if you knew there was gold, would you care about the cost of the shovel? And he said it again.
Ooh.
And then as he started to explain it, it just started resonating. It's like if you knew in your backyard you had gold, but you needed a shovel to get to it. I don't know what a shovel costs. Is it $5 at Home Depot? What if I sold it to you for 10?
Yeah.
What if I said 50? $100, $300, Erica.
Buy the
Three
damn
hundred
shovel.
dollars for this shovel. You know the price of gold. And so what? It cost you $300 for a shovel. But if you knew there was gold and the only tool that you needed to get to that goal was that shovel, you'd spend $1,000 for that shovel because you knew it would pay you returns, the return on that investment, investing in that 10 times over. And so that is exactly what you're saying. Like, yes, these courses are pricey price tags, but the transition shift, the mindset shift, the
Mm.
trajectory of your career, your investments. For me, and I'm sure it, even for you and for a lot of other people, it paid dividends that you would have never seen if you hadn't paid $1,000 for that shovel to be able to dig up that
Absolutely.
gold.
I'm going to steal that quote, by the way, because that's fantastic. That's a good one. I love that.
Yeah, and so
Oh,
I look at a lot of stuff like that. Yes, it's not the cost, it's the return on it. It's
oh,
not the cost, it's the
not the
return.
cost, it's the return.
The
Oh
return.
man, I'm getting so much more out of that. I love it. Well, okay, so you've got your experience in the commercial real estate side. Obviously, learned a lot in your real estate course. You've got your single family portfolio. You also invest passively, and then that transitioned into creating the Power Pool Fund. So, how did you get into that point of creating this investment club for commercial real estate investing?
Yes. So as we were doing the single family homes and we were looking at the numbers and, we do all our pro formas and we get excited when we see double digit returns. Wow, it's 10, 12%. Yay. And then, cash flow, at least back then, all right, $400 a month. That's not the case today. If you're averaging like 100, 150, like take it as a win. If you can break even, even
Yeah,
still
tell me
just
about
because
it.
of, the cost of things these days. But and then I just started as the more you talk about this stuff and the more, the big brother's listening in on your phone or whatever, you start seeing pop-ups on your social media feed and, you get something in the mail about something or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
how did they, I was just thinking about it. How did this pop up into my, my social media feed? I didn't even
Yes.
say anything about it, but I started seeing and hearing about the commercial space, not just office buildings, but multifamily, self storage, car washes, all these different, industrial real estate. And I'm looking at their projecting 15% returns, 2.0 equity multiples, 17% IRR. And I'm just like, I'm getting excited about, 8, 10, 12%, on the single family side with, net cash flows of $300 a month. And that's, God forbid, insurance goes up, property taxes go up. The HOA says we need to increase. Don't spend that $300. Don't
Yeah.
think you're going on some luxury vacation because somebody's going to come looking for it. The tax man, the insurance man, the HOA man, somebody's going to come looking for that net cash flow. And so I'm like, okay, so if we're buying these single family rentals, and we weren't doing like distressed properties where we were buying them for $10, putting 100,000 into them, then selling them for $500,000. We
Yeah.
were buying pretty much fair market value because we wanted turnkey, more rental properties where
Yeah.
we could burr them. Like where maybe we've done a couple where we're kind of really in bad situations where we bought it for cheap, but that was a lot more work, a lot more effort, a lot more time, and
Yeah.
a lot more learning experiences doing that. So we were kind of buying them at pretty much retail or whatever we can negotiate if it was a distressed seller, not necessarily the property. It pretty much fair market value, or maybe a little bit below whatever we can negotiate. But with that, I'm like, okay, we're putting down still 40, 50, $80,000, needing to put down anywhere from 10, 20, or 20, 25% because we weren't house hacking.
Right.
So getting those FHA, VA loans or whatever, you could put 2 and 3% down. And so we're thinking, okay, if we're going to shell out 50, 80K or whatever the down payment cost is to get into a single family home for a 10% return at a, $300 cash flow, a lot of these commercial deals are like for $50,000, in on their deals. They're handling everything. We're investing in a multifamily space. We're just LPs, limited partners. So we're truly passive.
Yeah.
It's more on the front end of vetting them, their deal, the market. And we think this is a good market and a good operator to put our funds with. And we don't have to sign on the debt for the, for the debt. We don't have to structure, negotiate the deal. It's more we're trusting in them to be good stewards of our capital. And if we're okay giving up some of that control, because I don't care what the paint colors are of the walls. I don't care, if you add a dog park or not.
Yeah.
Dogs aren't allowed in my rental properties anyways. I don't want dogs. So whether you do it or not, so those things I was okay giving up control on that. And I understand real estate's a long game, so I don't need you to sell it in a year for me to get my money back. I understand we're in a 3 to 6 year window. That's what we're looking at on our rental properties anyways.
Yeah.
So it just made sense to go after a 10 to 12% return with a 50, 80K down payment to go after a 15 to 20%, IRR with, and with a 50 to 80K, cash outlay down
Same
payment.
investment with no liability and no work, right? I mean,
Exactly. And truly
and a higher
passive.
potential return.
And higher potential returns. And that's why I brought that up about don't think you're just keeping just because you proformed, and underwrote a 10 to 12% of the rental property. It's not necessarily you might hit it, you might exceed it, but you might go under. It just depends on what goes on and what changes occur. So it's all still just numbers on a paper at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. And so that's how I was like, okay, this just makes more sense to take our money there. So we got up to about 10 rental properties and then we started selling them and taking that money and putting it towards those commercial investments. So we did our first deal, and I'm like, okay, there goes 50 grand. And you're right, it's not like HGTV. It's not that exciting. Once you wire money, you're just back to regular life. It's like, now what? It's just a waiting. Okay, they're executing.
You get some DocuSign, and then you go about your way.
You go about your way, and then you wait for the quarter to come, and then you get your dividend, you get your distribution, and it's not a lot. They wouldn't make a TV show about this. They really would. It's not that exciting, at least on the passive investor side. What they're doing as our operators and our general partners, theirs is probably a lot more, stress and
dramatic,
dramatic and
theatrical,
stuff.
I guess you could say.
But that's why they are handsomely rewarded, and it's a win-win because they can stay up at night thinking about how am I going to make sure I get a return for my investors, for people like myself and Erica and the Power Pool Fund, and I'll leave that to them to think about. So they've collected everyone's money. Let them go out and worry about that because I want to be passive in my investments. And so so once we did our first deal, it's kind of like, okay, now what? And then when you think about it, Erica, they're super rich people that can do $50,000 every month. But for most everyday people, $50,000 ever to consistently do, that's probably one deal a year. If you're at a certain level of income at that, that's probably one deal a year to say 50,000 because this is not money that you need to pay for school or groceries or your mortgage. This is all discretionary side, income that you set aside that you can put towards something and have it locked up for 5 years. Yeah. Right. So I was like, okay, that's 50 grand gone. Now what? So I thought, my husband had read Warren Buffett's book or his autobiography or whatnot, and he had mentioned that it talked about something about doing an investment club. He started his first one. He was like 14 years old. It was stocks. And they were investing in stocks, but it was the age-old investment club. So I'm like, this is, Warren Buffett's like 90-something years old. So this has been going on, since the beginning of time. So
since the stock market was created.
Was created, doing investment clubs. So I'm like, I can do that same thing, just not with stocks, but with real estate, where we're just pooling smaller amounts of money to invest in these deals without any one person having to come up with a $50,000 check. And we can do it more consistently as opposed to maybe one deal. Like I said, if you're at a certain income level, $50,000 every single year. But for most people, that is probably their investment capital for several years. So if we do this at 5 and 10K a pop, if you've got $50,000, you could do 5 to 10 deals at 5 to 10K a pop and spread your risk. And the rate of return, $1 grows at a 15% rate, just like $1 million grows at a 15% rate.
That's exactly
the dollar
right.
amount, the little dollar, the currency, the little S with the 2 lines is different based on a dollar goes to $1.15 or a dollar goes to 1.1 million, that's different. But the rate of return is the same no matter if you're investing 5,000 or 50,000 or 500,000. And
Yeah.
so that understanding that and knowing that that's where the Power Pool Fund was born, we just started with friends and family like, hey, we can do these deals if you want to get in on them. You don't need 50 or 80K. You can do it with say 5, 10 or 15K or however much you have and to invest, but at least a minimum of 5K to kind of make it worth the paperwork, make it even worth the wiring,
Yeah.
$15 wiring fee, make it worth something.
Yeah.
We can pool it and do it together because when you think about it, the world is pooled assets. The government pools all your tax dollars to pay
Yes.
for parks and recreations and the our deficit and all these kinds of things. The Blackstone and BlackRock and all these things, they're pooling people's, let's say pension fund money and they're
Yes.
investing it. It's not just sitting there, they're
That's what a
managing.
mutual fund is, right? They're
Yes.
mutually pooling funds because the stock market's expensive, right? Like most average everyday people prior to the 70s could not buy enough stocks to diversify their portfolio because those individual stocks were expensive. So that's where the mutual fund was created, where you could buy fractional shares of a stock, but you had your portfolio, so you had the diversification without having to buy the full value of each of those stocks. So I mean,
Right.
it's a tale as old as time. Like it's something that people have been doing for a long time. Whether you realize what a mutual fund is or not, that's what it is. But you can recreate that same the the cost value and the diversification value can be translated from stocks and bonds to real estate, and that's
Yeah,
what you
or
guys have done.
even banks. Banks are they, whoever you bank with, they're taking all their depositors' money and they're not just sitting on it, holding it for you. They're
Mhm.
lending it out. They're investing in T-bills. They're moving your money. And so they're still pooling money to operate their operations as a
Exactly.
financial institution. So if you think about everything that we do, your mortgage on your house is probably not just one person's money that it was able to for you to borrow from. It's a
That's an
lot of
excellent
folks'
point.
money.
Yeah.
So the world is a fund of pooled assets or pooled capital, people
Mhm.
pooling together. Not one person owns Trump Tower himself. He's probably not the only owner in Trump Tower. He has investors and
Yeah,
people
there
that
are
are
multiple people. Yeah,
there are
that's what.
multiple people that are a part of being able to your name might be on it, but there are multiple people that own or that are part of that capital, that the startup to help Zuckerberg. You saw the movie the social network. It
Yes.
was Eduardo Savern's money, a little bit of his, some other people's money. Like they pooled money to be able to get the server space or whatever to do stuff. So the world operates on pooling capital. And so that's what we did and are doing with the Power Pool Fund is just pooling smaller amounts of capital. Like you said, like one person couldn't buy one whole share of a stock. One person couldn't buy just one $15 million, multifamily asset. But these general partners are raising capital from individuals, from investment clubs, from groups, from private equity folks that want to be a part of it. And
Yeah.
they're pooling capital to be able to acquire it, renovate it, value add it, or just cash flow it or whatever the business plan is. And so that's exactly what we're doing in the club.
I love that too, because I'll tell you, our client base, everyone's like, oh, how much money do you have to, have to do infinite banking? And it's same thing, the story, right? Like we have clients that are doing 5 figures a year. We have clients that are doing 9 figures, you know what I mean? Like it's all over. So it's one of those things where when people are getting into this concept of warehousing cash to be able to go invest or buy a business, one of the biggest hurdles is getting to the point where your cash and your liquidity, whatever your savings are, is enough to be able to take advantage of that. Right. Especially, like you said, the average everyday person isn't able to put in $50,000 a month into a new investment. So
Right.
you guys have opened up the door to people who are interested in getting into real estate, but they want to do so in a less risky way, right? Because you can
Yep.
reduce your capital risk. So you're putting in less. You still are going to get those same returns. So you're getting the return, you're getting less risk, and then you're able to diversify what you're investing across. So for example, if you do have $50,000, you could do it across 5 deals instead of putting it all into one through the
Exactly.
Power Pool Fund. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can diversify not only just across deals, but markets, because different sponsors operate in different markets. So
Yeah.
you can be in the Midwest, you could be in the Sunbelt, you could be in Florida, you can be wherever that operator. I just invested in a deal in Washington State and like in the Seattle area, so in the Northwest. So you can diversify across markets, across different operators. Like I like those that specialize. If you specialize in multifamily, great. But if you're dabbling in multifamily, dabbling in car washes, dabbling in industrial, it's my choice. If I if I think you're an expert in all of that, or if you're just
Right.
kind of a jack of all trades. So I can find an industrial, sponsor that they go deep and wide into the industrial real estate space, and they know all the the ins and outs, and the what to be aware of, how tariffs may affect it, how it might not,
Yeah.
what a part of being coastal with it versus inland with it. They know all these different things, and so I trust putting my money with them because they go deep into that industrial space. Multifamily, same thing. If
Yeah.
you're operating, hotels or whatnot, same thing.
Yeah.
How,
There's
like,
a
what's
specialist in that
a
particular
specialist in that
niche
space.
of the industry. Yeah.
And so, as opposed to taking just 50 grand and putting it, okay, well, that's 50 grand for the year, going with that one operator just in multifamily. Well, what if multifamily, which they have been struggling over the past couple of years with the interest rates, rate caps, and
Yeah.
and then even with COVID, where you can't evict people in certain areas in certain states and all that.
Yeah.
Well, if all your money was tied up in that one, multifamily, or just even that one industry, and not spread across maybe some self storage, maybe some industrial real estate, maybe some office buildings. Same thing. If you were all in office buildings, Lord knows
Oh,
what your
Mylanta.
portfolios look like
Yeah.
right now. So it's
Woof.
able to take those smaller amounts and really spread it across different asset classes, different operators, different markets, and have a diverse portfolio, just like you would with an ETF or a mutual fund, but just you're tying it directly to real estate, not like a public REIT that still correlates with the stock market, because the stock market goes down even though you're invested in a REIT. The REIT goes down, because it's publicly traded and it trends with
Yes.
the indices. I diversify into real estate because I want to get out of the volatility of the
Yes.
stock market. And so that, you can do that through the syndications or syndication, private equity, whatever term you want to use, private placements, whatever term, basically crowdfunding, however you want to look
Yeah.
at it, fractional investing. I mean, there's a lot of different terms for the same thing, but you're entrusting your money with the GP, the operator, the sponsor, that they know what they're doing to be good stewards of your capital and to deliver return, communicate with you, when there are struggles, they're telling you that yes, there's struggles, but we've seen this before and we know how we're going to overcome that. And
Exactly.
all of that,
Yeah.
and they know more about that space. I can't possibly learn everything there is to know about
No.
multifamily, single family, promissory notes, funds, single assets. I can't possibly know everything about everything. And so
No.
that's why we like to do it with those operators, that they go deep into that space and that's their specialty. Just like you come to me for your specialty with commercial insurance. I'm not going to go to someone that, does maybe auto insurance all the time, and now I need them to write my multifamily. Like,
Yeah.
you might, the skill sets might be transferable. You could figure it out for sure.
Yeah, but what
But
lessons are you going to learn along the way? What's going to get missed? Because
yeah, and you're
it's all
learning it
fine
with
and
my
dandy when
money.
things are good. And even in like the real estate space, back in from 2013 pretty much to 2021 and 2, like everybody was making money. Like you had to try to not make
Not
money
make money.
in that 10, you know what I mean? So everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, I'm an expert." I'm like, "Okay, how long have you been doing this?" Like if you haven't been doing it more than 10 years and you haven't lived through like a
A
crazy
cycle.
economic
Yeah.
time, then you know what I mean? Like you don't know. It's you haven't even had the opportunity to lose money yet. So, like you said, having that knowledge. And I think also your point of you're able as an investor to spend your time learning about the operator, learning about the market, and focusing on that instead of trying to become a specialist in operating these asset classes. That
Exactly.
would the investment experience is, I mean, like you said, YouTube University, there's only so much, but also the time, effort, and energy, blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into that. You'll never catch up to these people who have been doing it for 20 plus years. So you can spend your time in a way that's more valuable in identifying and really figuring out who you want to work with, what markets you're good with, and why. That is a more valuable use of an investor's time.
Yeah. And I always say, and going in eyes wide open, because a big pillar of the club too is education. Yes, it's doing deals, because we
Mm,
can't just sit paralysis analysis all day long. Like, we got to get in the game. We got to put our money to work. We got to learn some lessons. We got to get out there. But a big pillar of it is education too. And so for me, I always like to do an education topic as well, whether I'm doing one from my experience and things that I know and learn, or like we've brought you on to teach us about infinite banking and the details of that. And because a big question that I always had in the beginning, like, where do people just getting this money, just buying these houses cash and da 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 da? And that's a big thing for a lot of people. It's just like, where do you get the money? Like, if you're just looking at your checking and savings, it's like, is that what they're using? Then I don't have money for the emergency, for the unexpected expense,
yeah.
or if I lose my job or whatever. And so a big piece of that is learning those different things. like how you can access capital. It's not just their money sitting in their checking and savings account. They're using strategies like life insurance policies, like, leveraging, credit card stacking. That's
Yeah.
one that some like people can use. Just
HELOCs. We've seen people do HELOCs for
HELOCs.
investments.
Yep, HELOCs or a business lines of credit. So, so not just a HELOC on your home, but a line of credit for your business, a line of credit on you personally. I mean, all kinds of different strategies that are out there to be able to access capital to do deals. And so I said all that to say education is another piece of it, because I always want people going in eyes wide open, because good, bad, or indifferent, like things can go really great. And that was the best operator. That was the best deal ever. But sometimes, and I'm sure you've probably been a part of deals, if you've been investing in any length of time, even for your own personal deals can go bad, and you can have these unexpected
Yeah.
expenses and, things that didn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that, it was a bad investment or a bad deal or whatever, but it's like, do we know how to navigate rough waters to be able to get to the other side? Maybe we have to hold it longer. A 3-year term may end up being a 5-year term. It's not a loss. It's just that it didn't go according to exactly as we thought,
Right.
but it's kind of like, what's going to happen tomorrow? I'll wait. Tell me exactly what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Who
Do
knows?
you know? I don't
You have
know.
no clue.
You have no
No
clue.
clue.
And so, but it's just a matter of understanding that, to where you're going in eyes wide open. There are risks involved. Any investing, like I love a quote or a phrase from Jim Rohn, where he talked about everything's risky. Here's the thing, getting married is risky. Having children is risky. Investing is risky. He's like, let me tell you how risky life is. You're not going to make it out alive.
Driving your car to the grocery store is risky, right?
Risky. Yeah. Everything is risky, but you don't not go to the grocery store. You don't not go to work. You don't not drive your car. You don't not fly a plane. You don't not, jet ski because
live
of
your
the
life.
risks.
Yeah.
You live your life, and you just understand that there are risks involved, and you try to just navigate them and make the decision that is most comfortable. I'm an insurance person, so I'm all about risk. What is most comfortable for you? And so, and if this deal is too risky for you and too speculative, don't do it. It's your money. And I always say, people are like, oh, it's nothing personal, it's just business. I'm like, bullshit. When it's people's money, it is personal.
Absolutely.
It is not just business. It is personal. They worked hard for it. It is personal to them. And so, and I treat it as such, that it is personal. Every deal that we invest in, my money is in it too. So it is personal to me as well, that for club members, it's their money.
People that say money is not or investing isn't emotional have never invested. Like, but you know what I mean? Like they haven't invested enough. Like,
or they're only using somebody else's money.
Or they're using somebody. Yeah. I mean, well, and I love that too, because again, when you're working with, especially with people that are getting into this, and they're building up their portfolio, they're building up their investment capital. Yep. I think education is, number one, education and network. Like those are two of the biggest areas that are of importance, more than the capital itself and even more than the investment itself. So let's come into, I want to make sure we focus on the fund. So one, who is it that you and the Power Pool Fund serve best? So who is it that really, if they meet all these XYZ criteria, then that is, the green flags going off saying, hey, they need to reach out and contact you. And number two, what is the process for, hey, Terra, this sounds great. I'm interested in the Power Pool Fund. What is their process of, getting plugged into that investment club?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it were people like myself, busy professionals. So we weren't the ones that like, oh, I hate my day job. I need to get into real estate to get out of ruts. I'm going to start wholesaling, flipping or whatnot. It is the busy professionals. It is people that are entrepreneurs, the doctors, attorneys, accountants, insurance brokers, think three children, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3-month-old.
I was say your new baby.
Yes. It is the just the busy professional that they don't hate what they do. They're great at what they do. You don't go to school to be a doctor or a lawyer or and take the CPA exam just to be like, you know what, I want to go flip houses.
Yeah, I'm out of here, right?
Yeah, I'm out of here. Like that's some the engineers. People that are busy professionals that are doing what they do but don't have the time. Maybe they don't have the care, the energy. House flippers is another great one. They love what they do. They're flipping houses, but that's their active income. So people that have these active incomes that are demanding on their time, commitment, but they want more passive. Like Buffett says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. You could be 90 still flipping houses, and that's great if you like it and love it. More power to you. And if you're still doing brain surgery at 90 years old, I'm not signing up for it. But if the hospital credentials you and still allows you to do it, great. But it is those busy professionals that are great at what they do. They love flipping, or they, houses, or they love wholesaling, or they love, running their ice cream shop, or whatever it is that they do, but they want to find ways to put Benjamin to work. They worked hard
Yeah.
for Benjamin Franklin. They need to give Benjamin another job other than sitting in their bank account, losing money to inflation, losing money to whatever the currency, if the euro, then outpaces the dollar or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so
All
it is for the busy
volatility.
professional that doesn't either have the time, the desire, or whatnot to learn passive investing and how they can actually put their money to work for them. So it is, although it teachers, things like that. You're working
Mm.
9 months out of the year. You got a little bit of time in the summer, but
Yeah.
you're
Right
busy.
now,
They,
teachers, this is
they don't
it.
work 9 to 5. Like those teachers are there before the students, during the students, and then they stay after the students. Depending on what they have to get done. So I mean, they're busy professionals. I have a lot of friends playing basketball that are coaches. Like coaches is not a 9 to 5 job.
Oh
They're
my gosh.
driving the bus back to the school to let the kids go
Yeah.
home. Then they got to do their paperwork or fill out, or they give a lot of time to the school and to the students and things like that they may not just have time to learn how to run a house or a single family rental property, or how
Yeah.
to buy an industrial building, or how to operate a hotel asset or anything like that. So it is
Yeah.
for those busy professionals that want to put their money to work so they don't always have to work.
Yeah.
And so those are the folks that are ideal for the club, whether they're new or experienced. Because like I said, even people that are deep into the real estate space, like home flippers, and that they're even teaching their own courses, they still
Okay.
they have to teach that course in
Yeah.
order to make that money. So
Yeah.
but what can they do while they're teaching that course and they're on stage, while their money's working for them? It could be working for them in this asset over here where somebody else is running the deal and
Yeah.
operating it. So
You have two sources of income, only one of them's active, right? Like you
right,
you can do your active
active
job,
job.
earn an income while your money is out there with its own job earning another income.
Exactly, exactly. And so that's who the club is for. It's for people like myself. I loved insurance. I still love insurance. I enjoy doing insurance. I enjoy broking deals. I enjoy the space. It sounds nerdy when you're like insurance, but if you don't get it, if you know, you know. You're not in it,
Yeah,
you
I'm
don't
with
know.
you,
You
Tara.
don't
I
know.
get
You're
it.
right.
I
I get
love
it.
me some insurance.
Yes, and I enjoy it. And so I'm not looking to just quit it, but if one day I will want to quit it. One day I will. But as long as I still have my money working for me through all these different deals and continue to do deals, I still have an income. The cash flow doesn't stop just because I stopped working. And so
Yeah.
how the second part of that, how they can reach out to the club, is just visit our website at powerpoolfund.com. And they can schedule a call if they want to learn more and talk to me more about this and how this looks for them and how they can be a part of it. Or if they're just ready to go, there's a button on there that just says join the club. And so they can sign up and join our club. So just on our website, powerpoolfund.com. Like I said, get more info, do your due diligence, all that you need to do. But you're ready to go, click join the club and
I
join
love
us.
that.
We'd love to invest alongside you. And like I said, we're not managing your money. We're not asset managers. We're not telling you what to do. We curate and present deals to the club. We bring on experts, whether it's sponsors, educators, things like that. And it is empowering you. It is educating. It is inspiring. It is encouraging. It is empowering you to be able to be in the driver's seat for your money and for you to be able to make decisions on where you want your money to go, where you want it to work for you at, what job you want to give Ulysses S. Grant and George Washington and Benjamin Franklin and Andrew Jackson.
I love it. I love it. So that's really powerful too, and I think I want to emphasize that. So if someone's a part of the fund, it's not that it's not a blind fund. It's not one where their money is going wherever Tara decides that it goes, or the fund. So as a member of the investment club, you have the choice to pick and choose the investment or the asset that you're going into. So the deal is presented, and as a member, they can opt to invest in that deal or not, correct?
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
that's huge. And
Exactly.
and then in addition to that, so in addition to having deals presented, you guys are doing, is it a regular education, or y'all doing it like on a monthly, like y'all have calls where you get on and talk about it, or what does the
Yeah,
education piece look
monthly.
like?
Yeah, we do it on a monthly cadence. So yeah, so we'll bring like I said, it's an one that I thought was really cool. We had, tax is a big thing in real estate. So we had an IRS auditor that was in my network come and talk to us about, as someone that is an IRS auditor that is looking at people's tax returns. These are, things that you can look out for, things that you can take deductions on, things that don't push the envelope on stuff like this, that kind of thing.
Nice.
So just different stuff. We had a lender come on and talk about, people that they always want to borrow money. And, a big thing is if I'm new and I haven't done a deal yet, he gave advice. He said, yeah, just say you're in between deals. You're in between 0 and 1. You're in between deals. So it was
In
just
between
saying, but there's
0 and
ways you
1.
can still make yourself look, because everybody started somewhere. And so
Yeah.
there's still ways that you can make yourself look presentable to a lender. And he was giving from his, if he's lending out money, like what he's looking for and how he does it. So it was very informative and educational to, to be like, even if you're new or even if your credit's not bad, different ways you can show yourself to still look attractive to a lender for where they would loan you money. And so just
Yeah.
different tips and tricks and education things.
Put
So yeah, we
yourself
do
in
it
the
on a
best
monthly
light,
cadence.
right? Like when
Yep.
you're going on a date with somebody, you're going to put your best foot forward. It's still who you are, but it's the best version of yourself.
Right. And he's saying you have experience. Yes, everyone has their first, you play sports, that first shot out. You're probably cold, when the buzzer goes off. But by the third quarter, you could close your eyes and you're making buckets. But you got to take that first shot. So don't just be scared to get in the game because everybody's got to have a first. You got to have a first deal, a first shot, a first job, a first girlfriend, a first kiss, a first everything is a first. So you got to
Yep.
just get out there and do it for the first time. And so, but don't be scared. I don't know how to kiss, so I'm not going to kiss you yet. You'll never learn how to kiss if you don't just kiss them. You'll never
Just kiss
do it.
her.
So just, but put yourself in the best light. Spray your breath. Chewing gum. Put yourself in the best light possible. So that was one of I thought was a good education topic with him. Like, yeah, I've never done a deal before, but I'm between deals.
I think that's
Between
huge
zero
though,
and
because
one.
everyone's so afraid of, going into something they don't know, but you're never gonna know, right? Like, and most people, and that's, I'll tell you, I think, I'm talking to my daughter about school and all of that. Like she's older and I see, grades, and they always talk about how A and B students work for C students.
Yeah.
And that's, I really, as I've gotten older, at first I thought that was ridiculous because I was always an A student and I prided myself in that. But one of the things that has held me up that also I think holds a lot of people up in that position is people who are focusing on A's and doing all this, they're focused on perfection. Perfection, perfection, perfection. People who are C are like, just get the damn thing done, right? Progress over perfection. So they're getting it done and they're going out and doing that, not trying to make it perfect, not that they're not doing a good job, but they understand, hey, I've got to get in and get it done at some point. I don't have to, I don't have to go, like I kind of make the joke for infinite banking. I don't need to go get my degree in actuarial science to start doing an infinite banking policy. But
Right.
it's something where you do your due diligence, learn enough, be knowledgeable in the space, understand the risks, understand, how things work, and then once you have a full understanding of it, then you can move into the process. But it's not a don't put yourself in that paralysis by analysis situation because
Exactly.
that's not going to help anybody.
Exactly. And that's what I encourage for the fun. So like I said, we were learning along the way. So it's not like just education is off the table and you go do it elsewhere. I encourage always to continue to educate whatever medium that you need, whether it's YouTube, whether it's podcast, whether it's, reading books and things like that. I encourage whatever medium that helps you best absorb information. Yes, we will provide, on our monthly cadence an education topic or recorded, whatever to help feed your brain for whatever topics that we bring to the club. And then also, like I said, part two is getting off the bench and now let's start applying this knowledge and start reviewing deals, evaluating deals, asking questions, getting
Mm.
answers to them and then making a decision. For me, too risky. I don't want to do it. Fine. We'll move on. Next month, I like this. I'm going to do it. Let's move forward. So, just, it's really just getting in the game and you got to start somewhere. So
Yeah.
you'll just stay in the same situation. Maybe the lottery will hit. Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, a bonus at work. I mean, I don't know. Like there's lots of different ways. Like this is one
Yeah.
way. There's lots of different ways to wealth in this country. This is just one way.
Well, and I just finished a book, and one of the quotes that I took away from it was, "Your life is perfectly suited for the results that you're currently getting."
Mm,
Right? So exactly where you are and exactly what you're doing, those two things are going to continue to go in a circle, right? Like you can't. Albert Einstein says it another way. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So those are,
right.
same vibe, two different quotes, but it's if you want something different, you got to do something different.
Do something
And
different. Yeah.
getting into this new space can be scary, but if you're giving yourself the opportunity to learn and network and, get exposure, that's great. Then the next step after that is action. You're exactly right.
That's that. I couldn't have said it better myself because that it is a new space for a lot of people. In real estate, you weren't born just knowing real estate. Like they don't teach you that in elementary, like they teach you your colors, like they teach you how to spell cat. So it is a new space and it is scary for me inclusive. When I first started, it's like when you're wiring that first however many zeros and however
Oh my
many
gosh, I
commas,
know. I
it's
remember
like
that. And I was like, oh, it's so
I'm
scary.
like okay, here we go. So
And then you
it
get
can
to the
be
point where like,
scary.
can I do this from my phone? Like,
Yeah. then you're just like, what? Like, what's the why? Can you text it to me? Why can't I just? Why is Zelle only 5,000 a day? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like why can we only do 5,000 with Zelle? So yeah, but you get more comfortable just by doing, just like with
Yeah.
anything, just by doing. And so I can't encourage people more. Like you're never going to get more comfortable than actually getting out there and just starting. Just
Yeah.
start where you're at and do it.
Well, and I think this fund is such a prime opportunity because I'll tell you like my first deals that I went into, I didn't do it through a fund like this. So you're going into is when you're starting out, you're putting large chunks of cash to work in an area that you're not familiar with. That can be incredibly scary. So to have an
Yeah.
opportunity to get into this space where you have that lower capital risk, right? You still have the opportunities and you still have the benefits, but you're able to reduce your risk. That gives you so much more confidence to move forward because you don't feel so overwhelmed with how much you're putting in. So I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's a huge opportunity. And it's something like I said before, if you have a good chunk of money that you want to split up against assets, then you have the ability to do that. So
Exactly. And we
that's so
share
powerful.
knowledge as well. I mean, on the, those that when we host our calls for reviewing and vetting the deal,
So you guys
I
are
have,
vetting deals on the call too?
yeah, we vet deals
Wow.
together
Okay,
too. It's
that's
not just like,
great.
here's the documents, you review them and make your decision. Like we have a call every time that we do a deal to vet that deal together. And so, yes, if the
Nice.
sponsor has like a webinar beforehand, we can send it out so you can kind of just familiarize yourself or listen to it, on your own time or in the car. But when we have the calls, we're vetting it. So I'm looking at it from, my eyes, and I'm always going straight to the insurance. Like I know, especially, oh, you're in Florida. I know what insurance costs are,
Yeah,
are
let's look at
doing.
these projections.
My
Yeah.
husband is an accountant and a CPA, so he reads numbers like we read, children's books. So it's like, what do the financials tell us? What story does the financials say? He listens to earnings calls for fun on different things like that. It's like, what? So
Oh
that
my
he can
gosh.
go, oh, let me go look at their proxy, let me go look at their 10Q and all these other terms. But that's his brain. That's how he works. And so other people that, we have people that are entrepreneurs and business owners in the club. What are they looking for? What do you see? What questions do you have that I might not even have thought of as an option?
That's
So it's
so
like that
huge.
helps other people look at stuff. And I tell you, some of the newer investors are some of the best ones because they don't have preconceived notions about stuff. Like, we may look at stuff, seeing stuff a lot and be like, oh, that's just that. They bring up a question that's like, oh my gosh, because it's just like, well, what, something so common, something so basic that because we've been doing it a lot,
Yeah,
you
you're
don't
focused
even
over
think about
here.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and it's just like, wow, that's a great question. What would happen if this happened? Like, never even thought about that. So, but like, that's why I always encourage people, like, no question is a dumb question. New, to experience, you all bring value. And as long as we're just on the call, sharing that knowledge and just someone hearing other people's questions, being like, I never looked at it that way or thought about it that way. And so we're not just pooling and sharing capital to invest, we're sharing knowledge to invest as
Oh my
well.
gosh, what a brainstorm. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that because I mean, to be able to have that many pairs of eyes and perspectives and, ideologies, I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
love that.
learn from others. And even though I lead a club, I'm also a part of a club as well for deal flow, just to have more deal flow, so because we just do a deal a month. But then the other club that I'm a part of, they also do deals. And so I'm joined in and I'm a part of their club. So it's like, oh, they have a deal that didn't cross my desk. And so if I like it, I'm going to invest in it that way. And same thing,
Yeah.
like people are sharing their thoughts and opinions on the deal. I learn stuff from them. They learn stuff from me. And it's great. We're all, no one's alone. We're not having to just attack everything and think we got to make every decision and know everything on our own. It's a little more comforting knowing that you have other eyes and ears and thoughts and perspectives
Yeah.
on it to kind of help you make what you feel is comfortable for you.
And that's the power of the network, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
that's so, oh, I love that. I didn't realize that because I think the vetting of the deals is even on top of the education. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up. I know we're getting to the top of the hour. So we've obviously gone through a lot. What do you think? I mean, obviously you've been doing this for a long time, but specifically in the commercial real estate space, multifamily in particular, the last 5 to 6 years has been very interesting, right? We've seen a lot of never befores and things like that. So over the last 5 years, what are some new beliefs, behaviors, or habits that you've adapted that you feel like have positively impacted your life and business?
Yeah. So as investing, one thing I would say is always keep your mind open to something new and something different. I feel like multifamily has always been the darling of real estate investing because everyone needs housing. Everyone needs housing. But,
Yeah.
fact, multifamily is struggling, right now with their deals. And there's a lot of opportunity, yes, to kind of take advantage of people that are struggling in that. But I would say keep your mind open to other asset classes because it's resonating with me right now because there's this marina fund that we're looking at. I never even thought about a marina as an asset class for real estate. But it came across my inbox and I'm like, wow, like this and looking at the returns and just understanding, learning or, learning now to understand the space, something that I never even thought about. People think real estate, they think housing, they think single family homes, they think,
Hmm.
multifamily, that it's housing. Car washes, marinas, industrial is the one I was familiar with it because of being an insurance broker for them. But, outside of that, never really thought about like, yeah, that is real estate and how these triple net leases and,
Yeah.
sale leasebacks and how they do that. Like, wow, like that seems like it's a cash cow. So just being open to listening to different alternative asset classes other than just housing. I mean,
Yeah.
housing is great, and people are right. Housing will always be a thing, and we'll always need housing. But there's a lot of money to be made in other asset
Yeah.
classes than just housing. And I'd say just like maybe in 2000, people thought office buildings were the best things to slice bread. If you could own an office building, you are just the rich. You are just the
You
the,
are
the rich of the
set.
rich. Yes, yeah, because
The
you own an
unsinkable
office
ship.
building. Unsinkable ship. It is the Titanic. It is the unsinkable ship. That is
Yep.
exactly it. And now look fast forward, until today's market and the Black Swan event, like a COVID hit. And like, I don't know if office will ever come back as an
Yeah.
asset class. But if you were just so bullish on, on that, and if and in 2020, if you were just only bullish on multifamily, now that we're in 2025, both of those, are having a lot of struggles and a lot of
Hmm.
challenges, and to be determined what will happen 5 or 10 years from now. But if the music stopped, you were ready to retire, you were ready to get out of the game, you were ready to kind of coast, now,
You have no chair to sit in.
yeah, you have no chair to sit in.
Oh man, that's another good analogy, man. I'll tell you what, I have a lot of good phrases and sayings, and I am getting so many more from you. I love it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. So you mentioned this just a second ago. What are some good books or podcasts that you just feel are game changers?
Yeah. So that there's some I like to starting with the podcast side, I like to kind of just on the search of like the Apple podcast or whatever, I just like to be like, real estate podcast for today, like hot podcast today, or try to get something that gives a keyword like who's hot, who's, what's the word, what's the forward thinking, who's progress, disruptor,
Yeah.
who's making waves, who's
Who's
saying
the new
stuff
hot
that's
thing?
yeah, and who's saying stuff that's not the same run of the mill that you're going to hear on every podcast, invest, buy low, sell high, the same stuff or whatever. Who's going to say something that is kind of outside the box? And so I kind of look for, try to search in those words. And maybe if the title of the show has something, because that's important, like not just the name of their show, but the title of their episode. I try to find something that gives a little more forward thinking. So I don't have like one that I'm just listen to all the time. I just kind of, when I'm searching, I'm looking for something that is going to give me a different way to think about stuff, because if it's the same, I've heard the same, you've probably heard the same thing all the time, like you buy in this and you borrow this, borrow down, or, depending on what it is. Oh, if you're house hacking, you get that FHA loan, live in it for a year or two, and then you move. And then, I mean, you kind of know the game, how the
Yeah.
birds work, how the flip works, how if you're an LP and you're in that space, you kind of know how it works. So I want to hear folks that are not saying the run of the mill that I'm going to get on every other station. With someone that's pushing the envelope, someone
Yeah.
that's giving us a
Maybe a little
different way to think about it.
controversial, but you're
Maybe a
open
little
to listening.
controversial. Someone that's pushing the envelope with stuff. Someone that is, telling me why office is still the best and whatever, even though I don't believe it. Change my mind.
Yes.
Why? What data
Yes.
points do you give to think that why we should still be investing in high-rise office buildings in downtown centers of major cities like
Yeah.
Houston, Chicago, New York, or whatever? Why? So I like to hear that opposition of thought, because
Yep.
it just gives us, something. Oh, I never thought of it that way. I never looked at it that way. And so I like stuff like that. And then as far as books go, so currently I'm reading, it's not really a real estate book, but it's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if you've heard of that book. It's not a real estate book, but it's about, people. It's not always just those that work the hardest or whatever. Some stuff, could be luck. I haven't gone through the whole thing. I'm still probably about on chapter 4 or 5. But it talks about like people that we see as great or geniuses, or like Buffett in investing, or Bill Gates inventing the software, the computer, or Steve Jobs and things like that, or top athletes. It's not all because they were just the best or the greatest or whatever, but they're outliers that made them be where they are. And like even just in chapter 1, he talks about Canada. Hockey is like the main sport in Canada, and they have an arbitrary cutoff date for when you can apply or train for like the upper level, like the elite league, and it's January 1. So it's all based on what your age is January 1, kind of how we do with school. You can't start school if you're not 5 years old by September 1. So a kid that turns on September 10th, now they're held back a whole nother year. So now they've had time to grow. Their brain is developed. The younger you are, the faster your brain develops. So now when they go into school at 5, turning 6, 2 weeks in, they look like they are just so much more smarter, taller, greater than the next person, where it was really just that arbitrary cutoff that we have that says if you're not 5 by September 1, you've got to wait. Same thing in Canada with the hockey. Because their cutoff is, say, January 1, those kids that turned throughout the year were now bigger, smarter, stronger, not necessarily smarter, but like just stronger. Their bodies have developed more.
A whole year ahead. Yeah.
A whole year here. They appear to be that much more greater of a hockey player, but they've had an extra year or a few months to grow and develop just by someone whose birthday was maybe December 31st that missed the cutoff, somebody January 1 that made the cutoff. Now they're able to practice and train at an elite level where the next kid has to now wait a whole nother year till he hits that age to then get into it. And so it's not, and Bill Gates, he talked about where he just so happened to live in a city where like the Mothers Association, the PTA board decided to use the money to buy a computer for the school, the elementary or whatever school that I might not be quoting exactly right, but it was something where it just so happened if he had lived just in a town 2 miles over or whatever, he wouldn't have had access to that computer to be able to fall in love with, to be able to use it at will every single day. He could walk to wherever the school was from his house, but he had lived just, maybe in Southern California, not Northern California, or wherever he lived, whatever. You might not have had access to that. And so now he's seen as this great person, which he is, but is it because of he was just so better than the next person? Or was it because he just had the access to that opportunity at that time when computers were coming out and he, lived in walking distance where he could go morning, noon, and night and play with these things and learn and develop. And he got his 10,000 hours to become an expert. These are outliers. So that's
really interesting. And I feel like that kind of comes back to the very first thing we talked about with you walked into a random nationwide office that, you know what I mean? Like
changed the trajectory of what I did.
Yeah, it's that one thing that one experience you had that took you off. That's really cool. I have not heard of that. So
yeah, by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Outliers. And so it's just, are we really amazing? Is LeBron James really that great? Or was, what studies can we look at? And he looks at just different people coming from different times and phrases and errors of like what, we can look at it. Yes, they're just great. Or were they an outlier? And so they're not the norm. And everybody wants to be a professional athlete. Everybody wants to be an actress, a singer, whatever. But those people are outliers, for one way or the other, and what he studied that, what made them an outlier, and a part of it was 10,000 hours. You become an expert at something if you put in 10,000 hours at it. So I'm certain LeBron James Steph Curry put 10,000 hours into shooting baskets to become great. And maybe that's why they are as great as they are, because they had access to a gym or to a court or whatever to put up buckets. Where if you live somewhere that there's no gym or court, or if you live in Canada where it's too cold to go to the park and play outside, you're probably not going to be playing basketball a whole lot up in Canada because it is cold and you do
pivot a little bit. Yeah.
A gym or facility where in a controlled environment where you can play the sport. So maybe that's why it is hockey up there and not in Houston. Hockey's not a thing, but so what makes someone great, maybe where they're born. Just so happened we were born here. That's why this, that, and the third. So it's a lot of different factors that go into, is someone great, or are they are outliers. They are outliers because of this, and this had to line up perfectly for them to be who they are and the greatness that we know them as.
That's really unique. I like that. Yeah. And I think that's a good way to kind of zoom out, get a full perspective, because there's those circumstances. And here's the thing, people say lucky, and that's the old tale is where preparation and opportunity meet. So what opportunities are there, and are you prepared to take advantage when your outlier opportunity presents itself? So
right. Exactly.
That's
a good book. And then I also recently read, but it's an oldie but goodie, Psychology of Money.
That's yes, I have that one right here. Yes.
Yep, Psychology of Money. And I always, and one thing that I continue to take from that was the chapter on enough. And like, is it enough? what is enough for someone? We're all striving to be masters of the universe and make money and do this and travel and have great kids and all this and that. But when is it enough? Like you said, if your kids are A students, is that enough for you, or do they need to be magna cum laude graduates or summa cum laude graduates, or are they making C's, trying their best and starting their business? Is that is enough? Like you make $100 million, is that enough? Do you need 200 million? Is that enough? Do you
Yeah.
need 500 million? Is that enough? When will it be? What is enough for you? And really always as we're going through our life with our businesses and our careers and different things that we're doing, like what thinking to yourself, what is enough? Like do we all have to make Forbes list to
Yeah.
have enough in life? I don't
I
know. I
love
mean,
that.
but that's to you. If I look at my parents, they are a-okay doing what they do. They're retired now. Just they play backgammon every day. My mom loves just going to the mall and taking advantage of the Macy's sales, and it's enough for them. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you go to Paris? Why don't you try? Why don't you do? Maybe that's not for them. They don't
I
care to
want
do all that travel stuff. They're okay just going to Disney with us when we take the kids or whatever. And that's enough for them. And so it really resonates with that chapter. That the one that sticks out most to me is just like, we're doing all this for whatever our why is, but when is our why enough?
to.
When have we hit the enough part of it? And so that's something that still resonates with
That's a
me.
level of financial maturity that it takes a while to get to because that's hard.
Yeah.
And, time and as you spend it with your family, you kind of realize like, okay, do I want to go spend, 100 hours at the office a week or do I want to make a little bit less, but I have that time with family or whatever. So,
Yeah. And he's
and to each
individual.
their own.
Each their own. What is enough for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the true answer. What is it for you? Professor Scott Galloway, Prof G or Prof Galloway, like his thing. He said his number was like $100 million, and so once he hit it, all he wants to do is spend it. So I'm like, great,
Hey
but
man,
that
go
was his
for it.
number. That was his number. 100 is it 100? Is it a billion for me? Is it is it 100 million for me? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that number is, but whatever I feel in my heart is enough. Like be grateful with that. You did all this, and you have the life that you feel good about.
Yeah. And yeah, the life that you feel good about. Exactly. I love that. Awesome. Well, Tara, thank you so much. This was so, like I said, I've known you for years. I've always loved talking to you and I love your energy and your knowledge and just your passion for learning, but also just giving that to other people because you're exactly right. Like this education and the network, just get out there and do it. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing. Again, you guys go to powerpoolfund.com. We're going to have that
Yep.
here. We're going to have it in the email, all the links everywhere. So reach out to Tara, get into that club so you can start taking advantage of all this education. The people and the knowledge, if you can get that, you can get the execution side when you're ready. But
Yep.
at least get those first couple check boxes off your list. And then also we're gonna have Tara's socials out there as well, so you can follow. I've been seeing your videos going up, so hey, y'all make sure you're getting connected with Tara. This is an amazing opportunity. It's unique, it's great, and it's something that fits into the need that a lot of people have. So Tara, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. I had a blast. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. We'll see y'all next month.
Alrighty.